Most people walked past him every day without a second glance. To them, he was just another homeless man, another sad figure in a city full of stories no one had time to hear. But what they did not know was that this man had once lived a life filled with music, laughter, and love. He had once stood on stages, sung to rooms full of people, and believed that his voice could carry him anywhere. His name was Elijah, though very few people ever asked. He had been born in a small rural town more than a century ago, in a wooden house with creaking floors and a piano that was older than the house itself. His mother used to sing while she cooked, her voice warm and gentle, filling the home with comfort even on the hardest days. Elijah learned to sing before he learned to read, copying the melodies he heard around him, discovering early that music had the power to calm his fears and lift his spirit. As a young man, he sang wherever he could. Church gatherings, community events, small radio shows that barely paid anything but applause. He was never famous, but he was known. People remembered his voice, deep and soulful, carrying emotions that words alone could not express. He married young, had children, and believed that life would always be full of song. But life has a way of changing its tune. War came, work disappeared, and tragedy followed him like a shadow. He lost his wife to illness, then one by one, the people who had once filled his world drifted away or passed on. His children grew up and moved far, and over time, contact faded until silence replaced connection. Music, once his greatest joy, became a reminder of everything he had lost. Years passed, and the city changed around him. Buildings grew taller, streets grew louder, and people grew more distant. Elijah struggled to keep up. When his savings ran out and his health failed him, he found himself with nowhere to go. Pride kept him quiet, and age made it hard to ask for help. Slowly, he slipped through the cracks. Until the street became his home. Still, he sang. Not for money, not for attention, but because singing was the only thing that made him feel alive. His voice was weaker now, cracked by age and cold nights, but the emotion behind it was stronger than ever. Every song carried a lifetime of memories, love, regret, and hope. On this particular morning, something felt different. Elijah had not slept well. His body ached more than usual, and his breath came in short, careful draws. He felt a heaviness in his chest, not just from the cold, but from the sense that his time was coming to an end. He did not fear it. At 102, he had made peace with the idea. But there was one thing he wanted to do before he left this world. He wanted to sing one final song. As the sun slowly rose, casting pale light across the street, Elijah pulled himself upright. He cleared his throat, closed his eyes, and began to sing. The song was an old one, something his mother used to hum when he was a child. His voice shook at first, barely louder than the wind, but with each line, it grew steadier, richer, filled with an honesty that stopped people in their tracks. A young woman passing by slowed her steps. She had earbuds in, but something cut through the music she was listening to. She turned her head and saw the old man singing, his eyes closed, his face lifted as if he were singing not to the street, but to the sky itself. She stopped completely, pulled out her phone, and quietly began to record. More people began to notice. A man in a suit paused, briefcase hanging at his side. A group of teenagers fell silent. Even the traffic seemed to fade into the background as Elijah's voice filled the air. It was not perfect, but it was real. Every note carried the weight of 100 years of living. As the song continued, tears streamed down his face. He sang about love lost and found, about time slipping through his fingers, about holding on even when everything else is gone. By the Fina. Verse, a small crowd had gathered. Some people were crying openly. Others stood with hands over their mouths, unable to believe what they were hearing. When the song ended, there was a moment of complete silence. Then, slowly, applause began. It grew louder, stronger, until the street echoed with clapping and cheers. Elijah opened his eyes, confused and overwhelmed. He had not expected anyone to listen, let alone care. The young woman who had recorded the video stepped forward. She knelt beside him, tears in her eyes, and told him his voice was beautiful. Others followed, offering coats, food, and money. Someone called for medical help, worried about his condition. Elijah smiled softly, exhausted but content. He had sung his final song, and for the first time in years, he felt seen. The video was uploaded later that day with a simple caption about a 102-year-old homeless man singing his last song. Overnight, it spread like wildfire. Millions of people watched, shared, and commented. Strangers from all over the world were moved by the raw emotion in Elijah's voice and the story behind it. Messages poured in. People wanted to help. Musicians reached out, offering to record with him. Charities offered housing and medical care. One message stood out among the rest. It was from a man who claimed to be Elijah's grandson. He had recognized the song, the voice, and the face he had not seen since childhood. Within days, Elijah was taken to a hospital, warm and safe for the first time in years. Doctors were amazed by his age and resilience. His grandson arrived soon after, emotions overflowing as he held his grandfather's hands and apologized through tears for losing. The story did not end there. Elijah was offered a small apartment, regular care, and the chance to record his songs so they would live on. He agreed, not for fame, but so his voice could be remembered. He recorded the song he had sung on the street, his final song, surrounded by people who cared. When the recording was released, it topped charts not because it was polished, but because it was honest. It reminded people that every person they pass has a story, that talent and beauty can exist in the most unexpected places, and that it is never too late to be heard. Elijah passed away peacefully a few months later, in a warm bed, with family by his side and music playing softly in the background. He left this world knowing that his voice had mattered, that his life had touched millions, and that his final song had changed everything. As the video fades out, remember this story the next time you walk past someone without looking. Sometimes, all it takes is one moment, one song, one act of kindness, to change a life forever.